All right, let's get right into it. Today we're going to talk about something we all do, a habit that is just so deeply human, rationalization. We're going to look at it specifically through the lens of recovery, how those little excuses we tell ourselves can turn into massive roadblocks, and, more importantly, how we can start to take them down, piece by piece.
You know, this quote really just cuts right to the chase, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that internal tug of war, that tension between our old, comfortable habits of self-deception and this new path of trying to live honestly. It reminds us that recovery isn't just about changing what we do, it's about fundamentally changing that inner voice that lets us get away with it.
So what are we talking about when we say rationalization? Well, simply put, it's the story we tell ourselves to make a not-so-great decision feel okay. It's the just this one time or the I've had a hard week, I deserve this. But here's the kicker, the part the source really highlights. A lot of the time, we're fully aware we're doing it. We can literally be thinking, I know this is a rationalization, and then we do it anyway. That's just how powerful and sneaky this stuff can be. And look, this isn't just some harmless little mind game we play with ourselves. As we're about to see, holding on to these rationalizations, well, it's a direct route to causing ourselves a whole lot of pain, especially when we're trying so hard to move forward. And this right here, this is the core of the issue. When we rationalize, what we're really doing is making ourselves the exception to the rule. We look at a simple guiding principle, something like be honest or be consistent, and we decide that for some special reason in this particular moment, it just doesn't apply to us. And that separation, that gap we create between ourselves and the very principles meant to guide us, that's exactly where the pain sets in. So take a look at this. It really lays out the two paths, crystal clear. On one side, you've got the whole cycle of rationalization. You're clinging to the old stuff, making excuses, fooling yourself, and the source is blunt, that road leads straight to pain. But then, on the other side, you've got the principles of recovery. You're guided by truth, you're embracing honesty, and that leads to a totally new life. It's such a stark contrast, and it shows you really can't have a foot on both paths at the same time.
Okay, so let's dig a little deeper into this whole idea of making an exception for ourselves. We can call it the exception trap. It's this delusion that sits right at the very heart of pretty much every rationalization we come up with.
You know, the source material pushes us to ask this question directly, and it's a really powerful moment for self-reflection. Is there a rule, a guideline, a principle that you see other people living by, but you've kind of secretly decided, yeah, that doesn't really fit my unique situation? It's a tough question, for sure, but a really important one to ask. And this builds right on top of that last question. And oh man, it adds a whole other layer. See, a lot of the time, rationalization comes from this place of, well, subtle arrogance. It's that little voice inside that whispers, my experience is different. I've got this figured out. It's this belief that we've somehow found a loophole that, decades of collective wisdom has just completely missed. The real question is, do we actually believe we know better?
And then, it all comes down to this. This is the one that just cuts through all the noise, all the excuses. What is it exactly that makes us the one special case? When you put it that bluntly, the whole house of cards that is rationalization just starts to crumble, doesn't it? The key is to really face this question head on.
Because here's the thing, we can play these mental games for a little while, we might even get away with it for a bit, but the source is really clear on this. Eventually, reality catches up. The truth doesn't just vanish because we explained it away to ourselves. Sooner or later, we're going to have to face it and start acting on it. Okay, so that's the problem. We see the pain, we see the trap, we see the faulty logic behind it all. So what do we do about it? Because the good news is, the source doesn't just diagnose the problem, it gives us a really clear, actionable way to move forward. And here's the process. It's actually pretty straightforward. Simple, but that doesn't always mean easy, right? So step one, you got to look inward. You have to actually name the excuses you've been using. Step two, you bring them out into the light. You share them with someone you trust, a sponsor, a mentor, a good friend. This part is absolutely crucial because these rationalizations, they love to live in the dark. And finally, step three, you make a conscious choice to just get rid of them. And when you start doing this, when you follow this process, something really fundamental starts to shift in how you live. By consistently choosing truth over those comfortable old stories, you start to build a life where rationalizations just don't fit anymore. They start to feel weird, out of place, because they just don't belong on the solid foundation of honesty that you're building. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This can all sound huge, like this big, overwhelming, lifelong battle you have to fight. But the source material gives us a much more manageable way to frame it, and it's a concept that's at the heart of so many recovery programs.
This is so powerful because it shrinks that huge commitment down to a size we can actually handle, just for today. You don't have to promise you'll be perfectly honest for the rest of your entire life. You just have to make a choice not to fool yourself today. It's a daily practice, choosing that one path over the other, just like we saw on that comparison slide.
And so we'll leave it with this. And this isn't just something to think about, it's an invitation to act. Based on everything we've just talked about, what is one excuse, one little story you've been telling yourself that you can choose to let go of, just for today? Because that's where the real work and the real change begins.